Naked Shamanism. Welcome to With Insights Radio. I'm your host, Iggy Garcia. I will take you on a journey across the universe through shamanism, metaphysical, and holistic. So sit back and relax and enjoy the show. Okay. Here we go. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Iggy Garcia Live. And tonight we will have a special guest with Chief Cloudpiler will be joining us here shortly. He's going to be calling in here in a little bit. Hopefully you can hear him, because if not, I'll be really upset. All right, so get a little. So, not sure why my microphone's off. I think my microphone needs to be. Okay, well, seems to be working. Okay. Anyhow, so we're going to try to get this going. So I want to welcome everybody to the show. Can you guys hear me pretty good? Let me know. Give me some thumbs up. Give me a little, smiley face. Yes. For some reason, I feel like I'm feeding back into my own mic for some reason. Kind of strange. I don't know. Things are a little bit strange today. So get this all taken care of here. So basically, I just wanted to see. I'm going to check here my phone here, make sure I'm not losing Chief Cloudpiler anyway. He will call me on my regular phone if for some reason he can't get through. So, So today Chief Cloudpiler is chief of the Nemenhah. Those of you who are not familiar with the Nemenhah is an indigenous group that does all kinds of cool stuff. And I'll let Chief talk to you and explain to you a little bit about what he does and how he does it, why he does it, and his passion. And with that, I just want to just check in with you guys and see how you guys have been doing. I hope you all have been doing well. I hope everybody's been doing okay. Today's been kind of a hectic day for me. Kind of came home to, I don't know, the police came and told me I had to move my truck because it was blocking part of the sidewalk somehow. And so I had to move my truck, and then I had to drop it off because it was having some little issue. My other truck, I have another truck, and it was having a little issue. And so I took it down to the shop, have them take a look at it. And then I get home, and then I'm in the basement, and the fish tank, through the filter, is coming up the back like this, and water is everywhere. So I guess the filter saw me, you need to clean the filter. Okay, if I need to clean the filter, I appreciate that, but you don't have to do it so drastically. I was just like, what the heck? That was really upsetting. It was really frustrating. And so, anyways, it is what it is. I took care of it, and it's done. It's over with, and we handled it. Well, actually, I handled it. There's no we in that. And I have to go clean that up after the show, too, when I'm done. And so that's kind of how it goes. You run into situations and you have to adjust. I wasn't too happy about that, but what am I going to do? I can't let that consume me. It consumed me for a little bit, though. I was like, great. I was having such a great day. And it was just an ordinary day. I mean, every day is a great day because you get to live it and enjoy it, but that's just not something that I was really looking forward to do, and not looking forward to having to do that either. So hopefully I get that magic phone call that comes in here in a minute, and trying to check all my social media platforms and cell phones, and kind of it's crazy. So he'll call me when he gets through here, because he'll probably call me on my phone most likely. I bet you anything. But yeah, so I'm looking for him to call him. But in the meantime, let us light a candle. Let us give thanks to our ancestors. Let us give thanks to those who have come before us in preparation, and just kind of honor them, give thanks to them. Because I think today they were really trying to talk to me. They're really trying. I think they're the ones that did the fish tank thing. That's funny. But anyhow, so this is to you guys. Thank you very much. Thanks for your guidance, and thanks for being there while you were living and while you transitioned into the next realm of participation. So I want to give thanks for that. And I also want to light a little sage, and just to kind of move the energy. I think it might be time to move some energy here in my studio office. All right. Just cleanse away. Smells good. So as you can see, just kind of came out of work straight to the office. This other office. For those of you who don't know, I also have a I don't know, property management company of sorts. We take care of properties. We maintain, yards and stuff, and we do electrical work. You do it all. So keeps me pretty busy. Busy. But I'm grateful and thankful that I have those opportunities to be able to do that. So I want to see what you guys have been up to. Let me see. What have you guys been up to? All my relations, everything is off right now. Everything is off. Yeah, today just seems like an off day, doesn't it? I don't know why, but it just seems that way. Maybe it's just me. But some of you are reporting that things are off too, so that makes me feel a little bit better. This is kind of weird. So I'm going to read your comments here real quick. I want to see how you guys are doing. I can hear you. Yes, hi, Iggy. I hear you too. Good, that's good. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes. Hi, Iggy. Beverly, how are you? Kelly, how are you? Nice to see that you're there. I am well. Jennifer, okay. Anna Marie, everything is off. Yeah, I just mentioned that. And then Krista's there. Good. Awesome. Very good. We're all here. We're all in the room together. So I just want to talk a little bit until we get Chief online here with me. Just want to talk. He actually drove up to the dam in Stockton. He's in Stockton, Missouri. So he's going to call me from there. And he says he's going to be under the tower. So he should be calling me here shortly. So lately, things have been going back to some kind of normalcy, I guess, some kind of normal way of being. But, I don't even know what normal is anymore. I don't even know what that looks like, what that feels like, tastes like, smells like. Everything just feels off, everything just feels weird. And, when you go to the shops, I went to the mechanic, for example, and there was like one car being worked on. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Like one car. And usually they have multiple, they're full. They're always telling, oh, we're so busy. But, I think people are probably going to be staying closer to home. The vast majority of people are going to be staying home because there's just so much stuff that's happening right now in the world. That's so much uncertainty, so much unexplained things. We can't get a clear message from anyone or anything, and then we have to kind of decipher and figure it out on our own. And we don't always do the best job about it, but we try to do the best we can with the information that's given to us. And it's just sometimes it's just a really pain in the butt, and it's like just too much to think about sometimes. I know for me, it's just been kind of navigating and working through the system and just trying to figure things out. It's not been an easy task for me personally. I'm kind of, if you haven't figured me out to some degree, which no one really knows anybody, one person doesn't even know themselves very well. I'm one of those people who, when I'm out in public, that's when I'm like me, like I'm fun, having a good time. There's another version of me that's just very laid back and reserved, like really likes to be in his space and likes to be kind of a little bit like a little hermit, you know, just enjoy the peace and quiet, the tranquility. I'm a lot like that. There's like the two sides of me, you know, kind of like the Gemini, for example. One Gemini, one twin is this way and the other twin is the other way. And, you know, I really enjoy that. And so when I'm in my space, I get to just chill and just be whatever I want to be at that moment. Just want to just relax, just like, and I sit here and I create music. I create, you know, spoken word stuff. I do a little bit of everything. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty exciting. And so that's kind of how I move and navigate through all this stuff. But I've always been that way as a kid. You know, I'm like, yeah. And then by myself, I'm just like, you know, just playing by myself and having a good time. I'm one of those people who who can enjoy their own company. Let's see. I think Cloudpiler is here. Hello.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I thought maybe we lost you there to some 5G connection or something.
Well, I dialed the numbers wrong.
Your dyslexia kicked in, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Or whatever kicked in. Hey, I hope you're okay, and I hope it didn't rush to the tower too quickly, because I know we talked a little bit before to the show.
No, I'm right under it. Yeah.
Good. Hey, well, welcome to the show, and I hope you're doing well, because I haven't really gotten to talk to you in a while, and I know that a lot has happened since maybe the last time we talked. There's been kind of our worlds have all been kind of turned upside down, and you know, it's just kind of like, for some people it's a normal way of life, right? Kind of hanging out, being in the woods and country and living off the land. And for other people, and for others, it's like, wow, what just happened?
Well, you know, where we live, Missouri had restrictions, but it was mainly for the cities. Mm-hmm. The county say for example, Cedar County. Cedar County has no method of enforcing. It would be the state patrol or your county sheriff. And the county sheriff was of the opinion that it was a hoax. Mm-hmm. You know, and so all of the sheriff's department and the city government and everything just considered it a hoax. Mm-hmm. They were following the administration's line for the longest time, and then finally the governor issued some recommendations, and then Missouri was put under shutdown, actually a shelter-at-home order. Excuse me, you'll have to excuse my voice, I'm a little rough, but now the shelter-at-home is not a shutdown. Mm-hmm. Cities shut down, Kansas City and Springfield, places like that, and they're just beginning to open back up. But out here in the county, it's like nothing at all happened. Now, our county had, I think, 5 recorded incidents of COVID-19, the SARS-CoV-19. And that's only because no matter what the administration says, no matter what the senators or the representatives say, no matter what government says, local or state or federal, there has not been testing. Testing is not available here unless you are being hospitalized. And if you're being hospitalized here, you know, there's no facility. Our hospital was full of flu patients, mainly elderly flu patients, before COVID began. There were no beds. We were in the middle of an epidemic crisis. And people were being told at that time not to come in, not to come to the hospital. And so if you did get COVID, you didn't go to the hospital. And so if you survived it, which most of us did, you know, you you don't know whether you're COVID positive or not. Myself, I had just, I just had a pretty serious flu just a month and a half before, and then I got sick with something that I'll tell you what, had all the documented symptoms, and I have never been that sick in my life. I had hallucinations. It was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying. And I don't know what other bug that would have been. It lasted about 5 days. And I'm still, after weeks, I'm still having residual chest inflammation and congestion, and nervousness and a number of other symptoms. So my feeling is that the COVID has gone through our community, and we have had casualties. I've helped families, who live in communities out here who don't go into hospital or to doctors. And the symptomatology is exactly what we're told was COVID. And we're getting through it. There have been some deaths, but in our county, I was, began by saying, for folks who don't work at the school or at the county building, it's pretty much the same. Yeah. I mean, people didn't even wear masks. I mean, you go into Woods grocery store. You remember here in Stockton, there's Woods grocery store. Yeah. It's the only grocery store in Stockton. You go into the grocery store and they're all wearing masks because the governor said you got to wear a mask. You're going to open up, you got to wear a mask. Right. But it's funny. They let that mask drop down below their nose.
Yeah. Right.
Now help me out with this. The mask is not to prevent you from getting COVID. It's to prevent you from giving it to someone else.
Right.
But if your nose is uncovered and you talk, you are emitting droplets. People don't realize that. But, I hate to say it like that because it sounds so Trumpian, but, we don't realize that when we talk, we are literally spewing out droplets. And it's by talking, sneezing, coughing, that we're spreading this virus. Mm-hmm. But it's funny to go in and they're complying with the recommendation, or not a recommendation, but the guidance to wear a mask, but you're not wearing it in any way that will protect me from getting your disease.
Right.
Very, very, very strange. Very strange. But for us who are homesteaders and potters and, we're healers out here in the country, our life hasn't changed very much except costs of things. And of course, the lack of money, not being able to make a living is hard for anybody wherever you are.
Exactly.
Sounds like you have a dog on the show tonight.
Yeah, my dog is going crazy up there for some reason. I'm not sure why. Who knows? My apologies to everybody, but that's how it goes sometimes in this business. Yeah, but I know that there's a lot happening right now, and when you first, I'm going to ask you because you're a naturopathic doctor, and when you first heard about all this, what was your first response? Did you believe it was real? Did you think it was, just the flu?
It didn't surprise me. When I first heard about it, it was in September, because I follow what's going on around the world scientifically, and China first started reporting a novel virus back in September, October. It's too warm in my car. I'm going to get out and walk under the tower because it's so beautiful here. All of a sudden,
no problem.
All of a sudden, all the rain we've been having, all of a sudden it just got gorgeous. So blackbirds are out. But when I first heard about it, I said to myself, okay, this is going to be a bad flu. It's SARS. There are at present 14 SARS viruses that are moving through the human population. This is back in September. I think there were 12, so this would make 13. And SARS is, there's a number of viruses. It's in a family of viruses that all have pretty similar characteristics. they show all these pictures of the corona, the way the virus looks. It has all these projections that if you look at it from the side, it looks like a crown. And so they call it corona. Well, I don't know if people realize, but most of the viruses that we get look that way. They just have different numbers of projections. But that's the way they all look, those graphics. But when I first heard about it, I thought, okay, we are destroying habitat. And Wuhan province, Wuhan city, is a habitat that was very rural for thousands of years and suddenly became very industrial. And that's the kind of thing that we human beings think we can do, with all of our intention and all of our thinking about things, because we're intelligent, right? We have this idea that we can change our environment to the effect that whole species lose their habitat. But think about this, because I thought about it.
Okay.
We humans have been on this planet for a certain amount of time. That's arguable, depending on your belief system, so we're not going to go there.
Right.
But a certain amount of time. How much longer have viruses been on the planet?
Well,
I'm going to go a little farther.
Okay.
If we don't have virus and viruses mutate, human beings cannot live.
Okay.
So you take a virus, it's happy in its own environment, it's selected for a species or a group of species, it's doing fine, and then humans come along and push the boundaries and either introduce it into a new host society or destroy its habitat so that it has to find a new host. Now, being that the virus are intelligent and they've been here, to my way of thinking, a whole heck of a lot longer than we have been.
Right.
Naturally, our orchestrating the scenario, our orchestrating the environment is going to cause that smart thing to find a new host, because life does this thing. Life does this thing, and especially life on that level. You think about it. How long does it take a human being to produce 1 billion people? Well, you do the math. That's a long, long time.
Yeah.
The virus can produce 1 billion of itself in a matter of days. So their life or their generations are on they're on fast forward all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you push these little smart guys out of their environment, and we have orchestrated that. We have engineered that. You push them out of their environment, they will find a new host, and it's only a matter of time. And historically, yes, they do find humans as very suitable hosts. We are a dirty environment in us, and lots of food, easy to get into, easy to get out of. And so, I was not surprised. I was absolutely not surprised. Now, I've heard conspiracy theories that it was originated in a lab, and it would not surprise me one bit if there was a lab that was studying this virus and 1,000 other viruses, because, let's even bring up how many of those labs exist in the United States. I mean, we are studying all of the virus, and that it was there in that location seems, let's just say it was a lab that was there in that location. I'm going to get back in the car now because the wind is now blowing.
Yeah, I can hear it in your phone.
It was beautiful for a minute. So, the lab is convenient, satisfactorily convenient to the location, studying a virus. And could that virus have escaped? Yes. The fact that human beings study virus doesn't mean that they're militarizing virus. Okay. So I have a hard time with the conspiracy theories. But way back in September, October, I was not surprised that a new SARS had emerged, because this is not our first pony. This is not our first go-round. SARS has threatened at least 3 times to become pandemic, and has been localized in regional epidemic, but hasn't gone pandemic. This is not a lot different than SARS-CoV and MERS. It's not that different at all. It is more infectious and has a higher kill. It has a higher kill. Not a lot higher, but it's more infectious, so it has the ability to get out there and spread faster and farther.
So that's kind of why it puts it in a pandemic situation, because it has the capacity to just do what it does.
Yeah.
Compared to a common flu or whatever, or another type of virus, but something that, affects people too a bit.
Well, it is not as infectious as the common flu.
Okay.
But it has a higher kill rate. It has a higher kill rate.
Okay, higher kill rate. So that's where the fear comes in. That's where we have to be on top of it so we don't become casualties.
The fear is that comes because we don't know much about it. And when we don't know much about it, that's where the fear steps in. If we knew everything about it, it would probably not surprise anybody. It wouldn't be something that would cause the panic and shut down government. So far we've lost close to 100,000 people dead to virus, or to COVID-19 anyway. But in 2000, and I don't remember, one of the years we had 101,000 flu victims. Between 101 and 103,000, that's 3 times as much as the U.S. normally has. And the flu victims dead from the flu. But this thing we just don't know anything about. We don't have data, and we won't have it. The other scary thing is that we won't have data until it's done.
Oh, wow.
We will not really have. It's like the WHO is saying, get ready for the long haul, because we won't know until this is finished, and only, 2%, 3% of the human population have been exposed yet. We don't know anything about this, except the tiny little bit that we know.
So it puts us in a situation where we're going to be living with this for a little bit, is what you're saying. Kind of like the smallpox. For 2,000 years, people have lived with smallpox, so.
Yeah.
Do you think we'll live that long? I mean, do you think it's something we'll find a cure within, or some type of antidote, or some kind of naturopathic way of healing this?
There was a doctor, and I apologize, I don't remember his name. It's now months. But he was fired from his job because he made a comment about the direction he thought that we should be going. And there's such a concentration when a new virus comes out. There's such a concentration on vaccine. And that's a cure. That's a frank cure. And the concentration and all the money is going into the vaccine, when he felt like at least a parity, at least the same amount of money should be going into treatment protocol. And when the reporter asked him, well, what sort of treatment protocol would work with this? And he said, we should be concentrating on immune modulation. These are some words that you might find familiar, because somebody has been talking about it now to you at least for over 10 years.
Yeah, I know that person.
Yeah, you know that person.
I wonder who that is.
Was the first thing he or him. The second thing was cytokine cascade mediation. The cytokine cascade is what happens in our bodies that make it so easy for this virus to infect and to kill. So you shut down portions of the virus's reproductive system or its life cycle, and you've stopped it. The third thing was epithelial tissue protection. Now, he said we're making great strides toward that, but drug companies are 5 to 7 years away from having anything that will be available for use to treat COVID when you get it in the hospital. So what you do is you go into the hospital and they give you they thin your platelets so that the cytokine cascade doesn't cause a stroke. Platelets will, the toxins created in the cytokine cascade. And I'm going to keep using that term, but I'm not really going to give you the pathology lecture about it, because we'd run out of time before we ever got through the hour now. it is that thing. Let's say let's take the Spanish flu, for example. You exploded. Your epithelial tissue simply exploded, and you bled out from your lungs and from your bowels. You literally, your eyes bled, your ears bled, your nose bled, your mouth, your lungs, you just bled completely out, and you bled from the other end. That's a cytokine storm. The cytokine cascade is exactly how SARS killed you. So you shut that down. You stop your own body's production of cytokines, and you have just shut off the virus's ability to finish its life cycle, because frankly, that's how it gets out of your body. There has to be a strategy to get into the next body.
Yeah.
And it's that cascade that does it. So, and then you come away from it with damaged epithelial cells that, in a week or two will kill you in your lungs, for example, or your brain or your heart or whatever. And so we need to protect those things. Well, we've been doing this for 25 years with natural medicine. Okay. And now, we're being prosecuted again for saying that we have a treatment for COVID-19. And so we're not saying that. We are saying we have immune modulation, we have cytokine cascade mitigation, and we have epithelial tissue protection, and we have the scientific evidence and the published documentation of those things. What you decide to cure with it is up to you, doctor. It is frustrating to hear that very, very early on, and then never again. All the concentration is on vaccine. Now, there was a marginally effective vaccine created for SARS-CoV, which is in MERS. It's effective on 13 to 15, maybe 17% of people. It's protective. You take the vaccine, you don't get SARS. You take the vaccine, you don't get MERS. It is not effective if you have it already for treatment. Not to be used as a treatment modality because it's entirely ineffective. That's not a high effective rate. That means that the vast majority of people who get this and have premorbid conditions like mine, for example, my heart condition, they're going to risk dying as I risked dying. It was a scary 2 nights, I'll tell you what. And then for a week thereafter, it was, you don't know if you're going to relapse. I was taking my own medicine, so my recovery was relatively rapid. Joshua was sick along with me. He precursored me. He was a couple of days ahead of me. We're all taking the same medicine. The grandkids brought it from wherever. So we have treatment, and, I've just done the same thing I do for the flu because we have so many SARS type or coronavirus types in the United States that we're battling this all the time. This is really nothing new. It's just that we don't know anything about this particular one. But that doesn't mean that we can't use the same treatments that we use for other flus or other viruses, because it's not a flu, but other viruses of this type. I mean, you go to China, you went to China and you got coronavirus, and there was treatment. You go to the hospital today, to this day in the United States, and I was just talking to a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Weiss, and I asked him, well, what is the protocol when you go to the hospital with COVID? So, well, you're fluid, you're going to get IV fluid, and you're going to get your platelets thinned, and then you're going to get put on a respirator if you need it. And everything is entirely palliative. So you're going to get Tylenol, and you're going to get fluid. And, he didn't have much more to say than that. There isn't a treatment. And that is why our hospital said stay home. Okay. Don't come to the hospital with flu-like symptoms, they said. Because there was no testing. There was no way for them to know whether it was flu, because we were right in the middle of a flu epidemic. And they didn't know how to keep their own people safe. So they said, don't come in. We have answers. And because we're naturopaths, we're not part of that elite, illuminated, ascended group of people called the doctors, the medical doctors, who are allowed to talk about this disease. But it is tremendously frustrating to sit back, and now that we're into May, and I've actually worked with family after family after family who wouldn't normally go to the hospital anyway because of the type of groups that they belong to.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the Amish and the Mennonites and the anarchists out here and the splinter Mormon groups and all of that. And they're all Trump-based, and they, it's a hoax until they get it, and then they call you.
Hey. Yeah.
So what are your symptoms? And they tell you the symptoms, and they're COVID. And I'd say, well, that's a hoax. You can't have that disease. Oh, it's coming. Help us anyway, and I do. And we haven't lost anybody. We haven't lost anybody yet, and we're dealing with people with comorbid conditions. Morbidity is diabetes, it's heart, especially lung ailments. There's a lot of, heart and lung ailments because we're Americans. We're all obese, and we all eat wrong, and, it's just the way it is.
Right.
We have treatment modalities that are working, and it's a horrible disease to get. It's the worst flu you've ever had, but it sure doesn't have to kill you. And to see the kind of mortality in the big cities, in the inner cities that we have seen is just heartbreaking to me. Now they're publishing statistics saying that even had the administration acted mindfully, had they acted competently, instead of following this, the Donald down the road into hell, more people would have been saved than died in the whole Vietnam War on the American side. So, deeply, deeply troubling, because we have a treatment, a very effective treatment. We're not even allowed to talk about it. They are prosecuting people who say that they have a treatment of any kind, unless it's the president who's taking aquarium cleaner and telling everybody else to. Right. Unproven or even proven to be harmful for a guy like him with a heart condition. Stupid. I mean, it is maddening to have absolute incompetent stupidity be the guiding light of a nation. Maddening.
Yeah, I mean, especially when no one really knows anything about anything.
Yeah, I don't know. Just let me tell you how I really feel. No, I think I just did. Yeah.
I think you did. No, but hey, you're allowed to have your opinions and feelings. That's what we are. We're human beings, and that's what we do.
Yeah.
But
I've also had a lot of comments from people, phone calls, and in the messages, Facebook Messenger I have on my telephone here, about how this is it's a government plot. It's the powers that be. It's the 1% of the 1%. They are doing this to kill off people, to reduce the population, and to take away our rights. And I've even heard that it's aliens that are mad because the other aliens are more successful on Earth than they are, and people believe in them more.
That one I've not heard. I've not heard that one.
It's insane. It's insane. Gosh. The whole Galactic Federation is up in arms because, there's a popular set and people like a certain color alien better than the others. Or, the reptilians are not getting their fair shake. And, oh, my God.
You're getting a bit more information than I'm getting. I haven't heard that yet.
Crazy. It's crazy.
There's part of me that goes, man, this is a good opportunity to try some new things out, though. I mean, that does cross my mind, Sometimes this is a good opportunity to see how Americans and how the world will respond if we put them in quarantine.
Well,
so far, I think we did a pretty good job. If you want my honest opinion, I think people follow the lead, and I think we could have lost more people.
When you look at the polls, and the majority of people are upset with their governors for reopening the states, then in all likelihood, the population is actually smarter than we've given them credit for.
I believe
social
that.
distancing is smart. I mean, look at the natural. If you're just talking about the natural man and the natural law, when you get sick, what does your body do? Let's say you catch a bad cold. Your body does a thing. Everybody gets the same set of symptoms. It's fever and malaise. Why? I mean, it's a conspiracy. Why?
Your body wants to heal itself, you know.
Your body wants you, number one, to find shelter and not get around others. You seldom want to be around another person when you've got a fever, right?
Yeah, you're usually going, oh, look, I don't feel good. Feel my temperature.
Yeah, you'll have to excuse me. I'm going to cancel on our date because I feel like crap, and, you know, I just don't want to be around people. Yeah. That's all we are. We get a blanket, we get a cup of tea, and we go find a corner somewhere. And there's a reason for that. In fact, your body, when you're ill, actually causes you to have depression. That's one of the symptoms of COVID that stay. I have had days, 1-2 days at a time, where I've had absolute depression. And you know me. I have members of the family who suffer from pathological depression. I do not. I've been called a Pollyanna because I can take any situation and turn it into a good one, right?
Yeah, this is true.
I get made fun of because of that in my own family and among my neighbors. Oh, it's Cloudpiler. He's, you know, it can be raining and he's out there with his shirt off, but this is the lightning coming down and he's got his hands in the air.
That's why we're friends.
Yeah. I have had days in the last several weeks. I have had days where I've sat in a chair and could not muster any ambition to even move out of the uncomfortable position I found myself in. My back would start to hurt because the position I was in, I didn't even care to move. And I have never been like that. And now we're discovering that this is one of the psychological symptoms that stay with you, along with systemic inflammations and joint pain and all kinds of things that after you're out of the hospital or after you've come back from this thing, you continue to suffer with fibrosis in your lungs so that you have coughing fits that you can't control, and fever will flare for an hour and then go away, and depression and this sort of thing. I think we are going to learn, we are in the process of learning a lot of new ways to do things. And, you know, in one sense, we're doing quite well. In another sense, this is going to be an interesting little piece of history to be part of.
Yeah.
Because here we are with our first world problems, and this thing is just beginning to hit the third world. And it's hitting the third world in a devastating way.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have the ability, most of them, to change their lifestyle because they are literally hand to mouth to begin with.
Right.
So it's crazy.
And, you know, it's funny. I'm wondering if this has actually been around been around more than we actually think, 2-3 years or whatever.
Well,
to some degree, you know.
In China it has. I don't know that it had mutated into or jumped species, but it is a disease that has been around. I mean, like I said, this is COVID-19. That's the disease complex that is created by the virus. Now, do you know what the name of the virus actually is?
No, I don't actually.
It's SARS-CoV-2.
SARS-CoV-2. Okay.
Yeah, so it's SARS.
Yeah.
It's the SARS. There are, like I said, there are somewhere between 12 and 17 of them already circulating through the American public and have been since the late 80s. It began in the late 80s. Then we had another go around in 2003, another one in 2007 through 2009, 2011, 12, and 13. This is not new. This is never new. You know, this is only new for us. only new for us.
Yeah.
You know, Spanish flu, for example, 2017 through 2008, or 1917, 1918, ravished the world for 2 years,
Wow.
and suddenly disappeared in 60 days.
That sounds pretty nasty.
Oh, it was, you know, it started in Kansas. The military base in Kansas was not very serious. Lots and lots of sick people. Hardly anybody died. I mean, hardly anybody died. We shipped that off to Europe to the war. That virus in the trenches mutated in a bad way. And then it went through Europe and ended up in Asia, all the way through to Asia and Africa, and then came back to the United States at the end of the war, and that was where it was devastating.
Wow.
That's when it shut everything down. But that was a 100% shutdown of everything, because everything simply collapsed. Their ability to do anything simply stopped. Everybody got it. Every family was involved, and it just stopped everything. This one is nothing like that. Absolutely nothing like that. But it was the fear that it could be like that that has caused the near economic collapse that it has.
Right.
Now, there are people who don't care. I mean, look at what the stock market has done. You know, this is just a great opportunity for a lot of people to make a whole bunch of money. But you know, for many of us out here in the actual, you know, down on the ground in rural America, there will be changes. We're hopeful that there will be changes that we can bring about and cause people to have to think about in their own homes. Not the least of which is you should have in your pantry what is needed for the flu season, because this thing is going to be seasonal.
So you're saying COVID's going to be a seasonal thing? COVID itself, I know it's ours, but you're talking about this particular strand is going to stick around. So it's going to dissipate, come back for a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to mutate. These viruses do mutate, and thankfully, most of the viruses that we have had have mutated into they have attenuated. They've mutated into less and less virulence. Because frankly, what good is it to jump to a new host and then just kill the host? These viruses mutate and select for the ability to maintain themselves in a host body. Not necessarily the individual, they will kill you, but not all the host needs to. A very, very low number of the host organism needs to go so that they can develop a properly operating reproductive cycle.
And viruses learn, correct? Viruses learn. They know how to fight off certain kind of stuff. Because I think you had a class one time here. You were talking about how viruses will sacrifice another virus in order to learn how to mutate itself and change. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but you had mentioned something.
Yeah, well, let's take an example. Without a highly mutatable virus, none of us be able to eat anything. We have bacteriophage virus that lives in the mucus that is produced by the mucous membranes of our intestinal tract and in our lungs, and we have bacteria that we depend upon to get certain nutrients out of our food. Much of the nutrients from our food comes into our bloodstream, not because we chewed it really small and that makes it small enough, but because it goes into our system and is broken down, is eaten by other organisms and shit out, and then we eat the shit. Okay, that's kind of crass and that's blunt, but really, fermentation is like that, and we depend on certain bacteria to digest our food in an organized way, and we have adapted right along with this smart bacteria. However, that bacteria loves to eat, and we all love to eat, and a lot of what we eat is very similar to us. And so we have this bacteria that's really formula or designed to break down us, and if it could, it would just as soon eat the lining of our intestines than the Big Mac that's coming down the tube. So there is a group of viruses that found that to be very satisfactory and mutated so that they live in that mucus layer. So when that bacteria dives into the mucus, it should be there, and starts to wiggle its way towards that epithelial tissue, the bacteriophage virus attack it, kill it, and eat it. So our own mucus, produced by our mucous membrane, is an entrapment for the bacteria that these viruses depend upon. And it's troubling to me because of the amount of bowel cleansing that is done, which strips away the mucus and exposes us to the bacteria that, of course, isn't supposed to be there because, ew, bacteria is dirty. We shouldn't have that. We should have squeaky clean bowels. So let's cleanse more. We end up with IBD. We end up with colitis. We end up with all kinds of problems because of our constant bowel cleansing and liver cleansing and kidney cleansing. And all it's doing is stripping away what we call our probiotic. Well, the probiotic, much of it is tremendously similar to the actual pathological disease viruses and bacteria that in a different setting can kill you. Say, for example, E. coli. E. coli is very, very appropriate in the latter portion of your bowel. Everybody has it, and they're not recalling any of our bots, okay? But you get E. coli in your stomach, and it'll kill you. Yeah. So there's the thing. Virus and bacteria are they're smart. They're tremendously intelligent. They can change quickly. They can mutate quick. Mutation for environment is no big deal for them. And we need to be thinking in terms of, okay, if we're going to continue to treat our environment the way we do and live in an isolated way from that which forms us as a living organism, then we had better have on hand the things that we need to combat the diseases that we are causing in ourselves. And so in that sense, we are orchestrating our own illnesses. We are actually engineering in the most sophisticated laboratories there are, our own bodies, new organisms that can kill us and that will actually kill us if we continue. Now, connecting with our environment again and not, ascending ourselves out of and becoming so detached from our environment that we simply don't notice it and don't care anymore. If we can stop doing that bad behavior, we will be more able to adapt ourselves as the organisms around us adapt. And I just see that. I see that as a very, positive, possible thing if we can get people to start doing something about it instead of sitting around and intending this and intending that. All good intention aside, we're dealing now with a virus that doesn't give one curly hair on a tiny rat's ass about our intentions, right?
No, it's because it's doing its thing. It's living like we are. Yeah. It
has to adapt to the environment which the highest organism on Earth is providing for it. And if we're going to insist on forcing it to change, challenging it to switch hosts, it's going to take the challenge. And of course, it's good at it. It's already proven through history. It's only mankind that is arrogant enough to think that we're, above all of that.
Yeah.
We aren't above all of that. We're smack in the middle of all of that.
Yeah. We're probably the most the most fragile creature on the planet and the easiest to invade, and you manipulate and use. Our only advantage is our ability to change our environment. Yeah.
And we have learned how to push that altogether too far. Altogether too far.
Well, people, if you drink beer and wine, you're drinking poo, I guess. You're drinking some urine there. Bacteria urine. That's why you get drunk. You get drunk.
We ferment food all the time around here. We're big into fermented foods.
Probiotics, right?
No, there's never a time when we don't have some vegetable or another fermenting in our crocks. and we eat it with every meal. We are producing our own probiotic formulas based upon the soil of our own piece of property. And to heck with all these companies that think that they're smart enough to sell you a probiotic that is appropriate for you.
Yeah, go there. Take us there. Take us there. I like that.
Well, you know, back in the day, 20 years ago, when we were studying what was called black soil, of course, you're not on the manufacturer side, so you're not sure. You probably don't know what black soil was, but black soil in the beginning of the probiotic era was that dark powder that was put into all capsuled probiotic products and all pills and all the liquids. Mm-hmm. It was produced by just a couple of companies, one in Chicago, another one in Louisiana. There was another one in India, and you know, just a few companies around the world were making these black soils, and you had these probiotic formulas that had, you know, thousands of different probiotic formulas, and they were all buying from the same source. And I know this because I was consulting for two companies that were putting together their own product lines, and they paid, and they sent me to, and I've told you this story. It was during my 2 years as the president of the Utah Naturopathic Medical Association when it existed. And they paid the bill and they sent me to the factory, and I got the nice little tour, and I got bored, and I separated from the little tour and got back into the lab. And long story short, I started talking to one of the lab technicians about how this stuff was made. And he took me back into where the huge vats of material was, and I'm telling you, these were tankers. These were monster tanks. Mm-hmm. And as I got to looking at it, and as he was showing me the diagrams on the walls of how everything worked, it was a digestive tract. And I described it as a digestive tract, and he said, "You know, you're absolutely right. We got the idea from the human and the pig digestive systems, and we just engineered a digestive system to make gut flora. And so this is one of the ways we make the black soil." And he said, "But you want to know a secret?" I said, "Sure. I know. I want to know all secrets." And he said, we had to begin with something, right? I said, yeah. Where did it all come from? And he took me through the plant, out the back door to a little area where the smokers would stand and smoke their cigarettes, a little patio area. Yeah. It was just a little slab off the back door, and he had a spoon, a little plastic spoon in his pocket. He had his pocket protector with all of his pens, and there's a spoon in it. And he pulls out the spoon, and he goes over to the side of the slab, and he picks up just a spoonful of dirt. And he said, all the black soil that we produce and have ever produced in this plant, in this factory, and in fact, since we were the first, all the black soil ever produced in the United States, Canada, or Mexico, all came from 1 teaspoon of the soil from right here off the back step. And I said, what? What are you talking about? That's insane. So we go back in, we take some water, distilled water, and we mix it with the sample. He looks at it under the microscope, and sure enough, you can systematically identify all the basic bacteria in our guts in the soil outside of that building.
Wow. And
that gave me great insight when it came to probiotics. People with gut problems should not be going to Chicago for their probiotic. They should go out their back door or some clean place near them in their environment and get associated again with the bacteria, with the biota that is in their neighborhood.
Right. I know you taught me that a long time ago.
That's not how we operate in the United States. That's gross. We need something in a pill, made in a plant. The FDA has to be, in approval. And it all has to be squeaky clean because, it's got to be clean. No worry that the stuff in that pill is a whole lot more than what would come out of your own butt if you were to put it in a pill. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in that little pill. Oh my gosh, it is potent and it is concentrated. And you would, if you told people what they were actually swallowing and the amount that they were, it would so gross them out they'd never take another probiotic.
Well, let's tell them. Let's tell them, Cloudpiler, since you brought it up.
Well, you read the bottle, and the bottle says so many billion live organisms, or 18 billion or 40 billion, and now there's 120 billion and 200 billion live organisms, and they have a long list now of all the different organisms. If you were to take a standard bowel movement, you would probably have about that much, but you'd have to eat the whole bowel movement.
Yeah.
It'd be the same organisms.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just, a concentrated poop in the capsule, and they're selling it to you for how much?
Yeah, a lot
Come
of money.
on. I'm not saying you should put your poop in a capsule, because there's other stuff in there I don't want you to have in your stomach.
Right.
What I'm saying is go to an organic farm in your region, in your area, get some soil, learn how to ferment again. We used to do this all the time. Sourdough bread and vegetable ferments and meat ferments. This was all part of the American diet once when Americans made their own food. But it cannot be part of the American diet and make the kind of billions of dollars that it has to make for those who are in the economics of making food for a population. Right. We would literally have to start making food again. And that's not going to happen.
No.
That is not. It takes competence to make food. I'll never forget. I heard the story, and I don't even remember who told me this story. I thought it was a dumb story. He said he met with he was giving a talk in front of some college students and asked them to raise their hand if they knew where eggs came from. And the young lady to be in front of the crowd raised her hand, so he called on her, and she stood up and she said, "They come from the egg factory." Well, that sounds like a contrived story, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I gave it a try. I gave that talk. It was a graduation talk before a bunch of graduating high school seniors, and I asked everybody to raise their hand if they knew where the eggs come from, and everybody raised their hand. Of course, everybody knows where eggs come from. So I called on one of them and said, "Okay, tell us where the eggs come from." And she smirked and she said, "From the egg factory." Okay, well, she didn't say that. She said, "They come from the store." And I said, "Okay, where does the store get them?" And she said, "I don't know, from the egg factory." And she was right, because eggs are produced in a factory farm, right?
Right.
You can't say from the farm anymore, because they did come from the egg factory. There's nothing wrong with that statement. But it goes to where the kind of population that we have created, kind of population that is entitled to a certain level of food that is declared to be clean by smart people who know what they're talking about. And yet the clean food, the smart people are giving us this clean food, do not know or will not admit how our bodies function. We need to be connected and associated with the food that we eat. And we are not anymore as a people. And that's one of the reasons that America, what was I listening to? We have a huge proportion of the number of deaths to COVID worldwide. It's huge. The majority of people who have died from COVID, and you take the whole world now, the majority, per capita, we have a much higher death rate than the rest of the world. Why is that? Well, it's because we're stupid. We're foolish. We're morons. We have the great American diet. And we have medicine, and these things are entitlements, and we should have them because we're American. And, these things should make us great and keep us safe. We're learning some things about concentrating on making ourselves great, because making ourselves great doesn't necessarily make us safe.
Right.
Does it?
No.
getting back to your original statement, we are learning some things about ourselves that I think are going to go on a lot further than this virus. This virus is going to settle in, and we're going to lose. We're going to have 80,000, 100,000, 120,000 deaths a year for a while. Wow. That's what I see going forward. We're going to learn not only about our association and how to associate one with another safely, but there's a whole lot more people, I think, who are going to leave the status quo and get back to a connection with what is safe and what is sound, what is no longer, what isn't insane. Because we look at how we live as Americans, and it is insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. And we have people who are incompetent, who are telling us how to live our lives. And more people are saying, what?
Yeah.
You want me to what?
So, we're going into this new reopening, or going back into the public sector again from our homes. I know eventually we have to. I mean, this is because this happens, but do you think maybe it's too soon? Maybe you think we're stepping out a little too fast, or is there a really good timetable for that? Or
I think there's no metric but the science of it. You need to watch. I think it's going to be different for every place. There are places that have not even started to have the virus yet. There are places that are reopening, and they're reopening before they've been hit. Arkansas is a great example. Arkansas levels of infection and hospitalization and death are now rising. They just started their reopening process. I think it's ludicrous. It's ridiculous to politicize this, and that's what's happened. We've got the baby in chief, the bungler in chief, who is willing to swallow aquarium cleaner and tell everybody else to do the same thing. I mean, what do you have to lose? Except maybe your life, maybe. What he has to lose is a whole bunch of donations. But if you follow for his campaign, you follow the science. You have scientific guidelines, and you watch what's happening in your community. Cedar County probably never needed to be closed in the first place. I don't know. We'll find out next year. And that's the thing about this. We won't know until the data is in. You can't know this while the thing is happening. But I think there are places, yes, that are high density populations that have a high degree of infection already. I think those places can't reopen too fast. I mean, you can't allow that to happen, because the recurrence, there will be flare up, there will be a second wave. Those places are going to be hit hard again. And there is no evidence that just because you're producing antibodies that you are safe, that you will not be sick again. Listen, how many instances of the common cold have you had in your life, Iggy?
Exactly. I was just getting ready to say that. You read my mind.
Every single time you get a common cold, you produce antibodies. And those antibodies they're part of what help you get better. You do produce them, but you know what? There is no indication yet that the antibodies are going to prevent you from getting COVID.
Right.
Anymore, the antibodies that you get for the common cold, the 90 different things that give you a common cold, prevent you from getting the common cold. Now, these antibodies, the herd immunity that you hear about, may begin to help us get over from it. Those of us who do not have premorbid conditions, which is a whole dang lot of us. But we simply don't know. And so I think social distancing is wise. It's smart. And I think it needs to go on. And yeah, I think that there are places that are opening way too soon. Georgia is a really good example. Too soon. Don't start opening until the numbers start to come down. And we won't even know if the numbers are coming down until adequate testing and tracking is going on. But, the bungler in chief, the Boo-Boo Donald, doesn't believe in testing and tracking, because, if you test, you're going to find out that people are sick. You're going to find out that there's something wrong with them. And that's not the optic. Everything is the optic with the present administration. And anybody who's looking into an adverse optic gets fired or gets shoved off the buffalo. And no, there isn't testing. In Cedar County, there are signs up, COVID testing here on the doors, and you walk in. I've done it. You walk in and you say, what do I need to get a test for COVID? And they said, COVID testing is available for everyone who needs COVID testing. And then they give you an interview and prioritize your need for COVID testing. And what that boils down to is who you were exposed to and what your symptoms are. You know, you can't get.
Yeah.
You absolutely cannot get tested in this county.
Well, here in Franklin County too, I mean, here in Columbus, I hear people all the time saying that, you know, that it's very selective who they're testing. You know, it's people who are either medical staff or people who are elderly. If you're kind of fit, you're not going to test you. They're not going to, if you look kind of well, I mean, they may ask you questions, but it's just. Yeah,
they're going to say, in all likelihood, you have been exposed, go home.
Yeah, that's pretty
much. I'm not going to waste a test on you. Yeah, and the other deeply troubling thing is that now the FDA has earmarked 17 different companies making testing that they do not approve, that is questionable, that there are problems with it. They don't meet the criteria. They don't test the right thing. So this nation has bungled their opportunity to be leaders, to be a leader in this field, continue to bungle it, and will continue to bungle it because it's political.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, you hit that on the nail. It's become very political.
It has. We have a whole neighborhood of they call themselves fundamental Mormons. They're splinters. You know what I'm talking about. They're disgruntled. They split off. They form their own communities. They're isolationists. They're very anarchist. The government is bad guy. They all voted for Trump. Bar none, they all voted for Trump. And you will see them on the social media quoting everything that he has said. To this day, they're still calling this a hoax. Not too long ago, a prominent grandmother in a rest home here got COVID and died. And they're calling that a conspiracy against their community. Not that it was the real thing at all, but it was the powers that be here in Southwest Missouri, where anybody cares, you know, conspired to take away the life of this 89-year-old, 89-year-old sick lady in a rest home. You know, and she didn't die of COVID. She died of the flu, as far as anybody knows.
Right.
It was COVID, but they're not registering the deaths as COVID because there's no testing going on.
Yeah, it's just right now it's like a mess, you know. And this whole thing is just. I do believe the immunomodulation, like you've been talking about, is important for people to work on and find those sources. Because
go
ahead.
The vast majority of people who get COVID have hopping immune systems or adequate immune systems. They get really, really sick and they get over it, or they have symptoms. They get over it. The best possible scenario then is to mimic them. Not go get their plasma and make some kind of smart drug or super drug out of it. Mimic them. Make sure that your immune system is not just boosted, because, you know, taking zinc and vitamin C and all these things are good, and the D3 and all these things that people are taking to boost their immune system is doing absolutely nothing. You must modulate up your immune response to certain organisms and the activities of your own body regarding those organisms. Modulate the immune system, and then go after the major reproductive cycle the one portion of the 6 or 7 phases of this virus reproductive system that we can gain some control over. There's a myriad of different foods, plants that will mitigate or tone down a cytokine cascade. It doesn't allow it to go out of control, so you don't end up needing the ventilator. Okay, we can do these things, and these are things that you can do at home. You do them at home just like you used to handle everything at home. And that's what Americans need to be doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. And I think I also kind of hit some kind of little wall about 3 weeks ago where I was kind of down for the count. My eye felt like it was going to pop out of my head, and I had this headache, and I was so tired, and I was just I got depressed too, like you said. And I was just like so depressed, and I just laid down for like 4 or 5 days. I was kind of like in bed and just like, leave me alone. And
well, my friend, that was COVID.
Yeah. And you know, what's funny is, the thing about it is, for 3 years, I had this chronic cough where I was coughing.
Yeah, you have.
Remember that? Well, I don't have it anymore. I don't have it anymore. It's kind of,
well, COVID cured you.
Yeah, it's just funny. I'm thinking to myself, I don't have that build up like I had. You remember, you helped me with that. You and your son helped me with the immune modulation with the Siaga and all the different things that we were doing. And it was pretty intense. It was something I couldn't shake. That's why I was saying, has this been around for a while? Is this something that is it something, because my curiosity starts to work, but I think I might have had some kind of version of COVID about 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Well, we have somewhere between 5 and 7 different mutations now that are being noted in the United States. So there are different diseases out there. You've seen the new systemic inflammatory disease caused by COVID in little children, haven't you?
Well, that's the inflammation.
Yeah, it's inflammation in their skin. It started out with this COVID toe that you started seeing reports of, and all of a sudden little children in hospital had COVID toe all over their bodies.
Wow.
So we're gonna see COVID mutate. It's going to go through many forms. Like I said about the Spanish flu, which we probably shouldn't call the Spanish flu, but hey, that's what they call it. It started as a less virulent thing in Kansas, of all places, right next door, right over the border. It became something that killed millions and millions of people worldwide.
I'm offended. I'm offended they call it the Spanish flu. Come on.
Me too. They should call it the Kansas flu.
They should call it the Kansas flu.
They should call it the Fort Scott influenza is what they should call it. FS something. Screw you, influenza. Yeah. But let's get back to it. We have not just a wonder drug. We have a book full of treatments, so that when one element of our treatment protocol is unavailable because of season or availability, we have 7 others that we can bring to play. And so many of them are right in our backyards. For COVID, for example, the Siaga, of course, is immune modulatory. It turns up the production of neutrophil white blood cells in the macrophages and the B cells and the T cells. Okay, so that's great. We need more of those cells when we're sick. We don't have, with a virus like this, we don't have the luxury of time. It can make us very, very sick before we have produced enough cells to do anything about it. And then, because time is of the essence, the cytokine storm begins and we're done. And it's our immune system that does that. So we're screwed. Right. If we had enough cells to begin with, there would be no cytokine storm. It would not be the second the also ran idea that the body comes up with. So here's the thing: modulate the immune system. But some of the elements that we're finding is so effective with Siaga is Chinese skullcap, elder, herb, not the flower, but the actual herb, and things called bidens, which is a wildflower grows alongside the road, and there's just a number of different things. knotweed, what we call the smartweed. These things brought together with some licorice, which protects the epithelial cells and reduces the cytokine cascade. We bring together a group of common plant organisms, plant foods that anybody can get, or they can get them. We can get them and formulate them at any time of the year, and make it available for people to protect themselves. They do not have to wait, and they should not have to wait for pharmaceutical companies to make them a pill that they can go down to their drugstore and buy, or they get on the internet and buy. We have it. People have the ability to have compounding apothecaries in their back pocket, that they can call them and talk about their specific symptoms and have something in a timely manner and get well like you did. Your situation was singular. It was you. You needed a medicine that was about you. It was formulated custom for you. Right. It was not for everybody with you know, what is it, COPD?
Yeah, COPD. Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Nothing is a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
We need to get back to the way our grandparents and our great-grandparents made medicine, coupled with the science that we have now. It's a marvelous thing to do. It's custom, and, you know, it could be available to so many people. And I think that's one area where we're going to see some loosening of regulations when it comes to natural modalities, especially in the face of absolute lack on the part of the medical profession, because at the same time as confidence in, you know, the Donald is really waning, so is confidence in this big monolith we call the medical profession. Mm-hmm. We have professionals coming out of the woodworks now and saying we need to do something natural. We need to get back on track, and that's a good thing for us. It's a good thing for the Namenha. Good thing for apothecary.
Absolutely. Someone's got to have a solution, because right now it's pretty detrimental. Right now, we're treading.
You're kind of on your own. You're on your own. Go home and be sick, basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I've expressed my feelings about everything. It's kind of like, well, you're kind of fending for yourself. You know, you figure it out, kind of. You know.
Yeah, Cuomo, not the governor, but the journalist, when he took his show into his basement when he got COVID, we got to see COVID-19, and he is still a powerful voice. And he was on his own. Mm-hmm. You know, he had Sanjay Gupta, who's a great doctor, giving him ideas and helping him along. But he was, like all the rest of us, on his own. He had COVID. He had it in the basement. And, you know, it was bad. Mm-hmm. He got very sick. His family got it. And that's where we all are. And so since they're sending us home, or they're telling us not to come to the hospital at all, here in our neighborhood, don't come to the hospital with flu-like symptoms. We will send you home with aspirin, whether you have COVID or not. Since they're sending you home, you need to have what it takes to survive the thing and get better. Now, look, I have an arthritic heart. I have a valve that is arthritic. It does not work properly. It sticks open. I have high blood pressure. I'm pre-diabetic. I have some problems. Yeah. I should have been one of those people that was pre-designed to die from COVID. Mm-hmm. You would think. My immune system sucks. I've had cancer. I've had chickenpox 13 times. So that the last time was only inside my esophagus. Oh wow! That's kind of a sorry story about the quality of my natural immune system. Left to itself, it's not very protective. Because I had all the materials needed and the knowledge to use it, I got through, and it was scary. It was touch and go. I've got to tell you, it was like I said, I don't think I have ever been in that much pain. I've broken my back. I've had heart attacks, but I've never been in that much pain as that flu. But here I are. Yeah. And here you are.
Here we are.
Here we are.
Natural selection, Cloudpiler? Natural selection? I mean, survival of the fittest?
No, I'm not the fittest. I'm by far the unfittest. Look at my medical history.
You're the fittest person I know, right?
Man, I should never have bred, but I'm thankful I did. You know, I have wonderful children and grandchildren. But I mean, look at my life story has been one of one illness after another. In fact, one of the reasons I was able to sit for the national board exam as an HPF, when they told me, no, you need a residency, you don't have the experience, you will not pass the national board, but they allowed me to sit for the oral, which was an 18-hour test.
Wow.
And I passed the thing really only because most of the questions had to do with some illness that I had already suffered.
Okay.
It was my experience. That's not a positive statement.
Yeah. So, I mean, it depends how you look at it.
The selective process should have been selecting me out of the gene pool, but it didn't.
Yeah. Well.
200 years ago it would have. I probably would not have made it past my 15th year.
There's probably a lot of us. I'm probably one of those too. I probably wouldn't even. Yeah, probably wouldn't have gotten that far from. My mom would have died too.
Yeah, we live in a time where we're fortunate in that we can modify our environment. Some amazing tech and some amazing advancements. And people like us who wouldn't 200 years ago have lived to reproduce are living and reproducing. That could be a bad thing. We're going to have to learn how to properly behave ourselves in our environment. There are many things that we will be learning from this COVID experience.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're down to the last probably 5 minutes of the show. So I'd like to give you an opportunity for just kind of leave something with the listeners, something that you think that's important that they should know while they're going through all this.
One of the things that caught my attention the most was that I personally, I mean, it got me when I got sick. And I have to be honest with you, about 2.5 weeks ago, I had a coronary episode. By the definition of such things, it was a heart attack. I didn't go in and get treatment, so there's no diagnosis. But, one of the things that came to my head that made me think in the last several weeks is I'm a lucky guy in that my ancestors have spoken to me, and if I pay attention, I have available to me wisdom that can be applied with today's tech, today's science. If we take our ancestral wisdom and apply it properly, my message to humanity is wonderful things can happen. If, however, we continue down this path of denying our past and disregarding and separating and detaching ourselves from our ancestors and their wisdom, and detaching ourselves from our community and our family and our environment, I'm here to tell you, I prophesy that if we continue to choose detachment and to choose ascension over making the best possible world to live in here and now, and actually seeking attachment, co-attachment, and entanglement, if we continue down the line of detaching, we will find ourselves just disappearing as a race. Not ascending, not becoming better, not going to a wonderful, wonderful anywhere, but simply ceasing to exist because we won't deserve to exist.
Mm-hmm.
We will select ourselves right out of the selection. We won't be on the queue anymore. This, it's a multiple choice question, and we won't be there in any of the possible answers. So my message is attach. We live in heaven. Okay, for a lot of people it's hell, but we can make this heaven. Our lives are our lives. We are living them. We should not spend our lives waiting for something else that is supposed to come after. I think it's the biggest waste of potential in the universe for us to be sitting around talking about what ought to be and not doing anything about it. And that's my message.
Awesome.
I think Yoda said it. Except I would say it a little differently. Do or do not.
Do
or do not. He said there is no try.
There's no try.
You don't do it. You don't do if you don't try. But if all you're doing is sitting around and emotioning and intending and thinking and hoping, you're doing nothing. And that is why so many so-called enlightened people are falling down dead or, sitting scared in their basements. We live in an enlightened time when the tiniest of organisms can scare us to death.
Yeah.
And that should be very instructive to us. We should take that away and be instructive and do great things with it.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you for that message. That was a powerful message. I hear you. I heard you when you said that. That's you've been a good friend. You've been a good mentor. You've been a good chief. You've taught me a lot. I've learned a lot from you and your family and in the Nemenhah organization and being part of that and just being plugged in with you guys has helped me expand my mind into other things to learn new things as well and possibilities. So I'm grateful for that. And so I bow.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you that's very flattering. I'm a media whore. I like it when people say they like me,
Yeah. But other than that, I guess that's a wrap for our show. But I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us. Hope to have you back on when we get maybe further down the line and see how things are turning out.
And, I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to rant.
So we can talk and, kind of catch up and just kind of give your thoughts and your feelings, your perceptions on how you're seeing things are turning out.
Cool. I'd love to.
Good? All right. Well, peace and love, my friend, my brother, my chief, whatever. Thanks for being on with me. I really appreciate you. And I know that sometimes it's hard to get you to get on these shows. So it's a very big honor and a very big pleasure to have you.
Oh, well, thank you. I do have a brand new tower to sit under. And when it's nice weather, I don't mind it. But when the thunderstorms are coming through, you're not good for me.
Not a good place.
No, I'm seeking shelter.
All right, Chief Cloudpiler, thank you very much for being on with us, and we will talk to you soon. Stay safe. Do what you got to do, and I hope you feel better, and I hope you get back on track, and we'll see each other soon. I promise.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care, my friend.
Walk sacred. Walk sacred. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in tonight. So that was my friend and Chief Cloudpiler, and he's an amazing resource. He has so much in that head of his, so much information. When I'm with him, I just want to learn everything. And it's good. It's amazing. It's great to have somebody in your life like that you can learn from, because they're not always going to be around. And his kids are just as sharp as he is, and it's an amazing to be able to take that information and pass it along. And a lot of the things that I talk about, a lot of things that I share, come from him and the other teachers that have been on this show, and they're the ones who forged the path for me to do the work that I do. So I'm very grateful for them. Chief Cloudpiler and Chief Phillip Landis, he's also very powerful in his knowledge and in his spirituality and the medical work and the medicine work they do, and the naturopathic work they do. Just amazing people. Check them out at nemenhah.com or .org. I think it's .org, but check them out anyway. But guys, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you being here with me. So I want to say ho'oponopono. It's good to be here. Matakuyasin, Namaste, everything that you line up with, and just go out there, irisikwi, remember, be grateful, and do what you got to do. And I will see you guys very soon. I will see you guys next week. Peace and love. Be well. I'll talk to you soon.